How many of you was it your first time seeing this film? Get ready. First up, Margot Robbie. And a little bit of a surprise here, Ryan and America Ferrera. Kate McKinnon. Rhea Perlman. And Ariana Greenblatt. Welcome.
How's everyone feeling? Put up your hand if you hadn't seen it until tonight. Oh my gosh, that's amazing! Well, thank you, and thank you for those.
I always cry at the end moment with Barbie and Ruth. That's the ugly crying moment for me.
There's a lot of ugly crying moments. So Margot, I on all the nominations for all of you. Margot, you were the person that bought the rights to Barbie, and I'm just so curious, what was the meeting where you, with your production company Lucky Chap, sat down and said, this is the thing that we should do?
It was about 5.5 years ago, maybe even 6 years ago now, and we sat down with Inon, the real-life head of Mattel, who is nothing like Will Ferrell, actually. He actually is a lot like the Terminator. And he just reminds me of the Terminator so much, and he's just like, he just crushes everything. It's amazing. So he was very on board with kind of trusting us to make the movie, you know, kind of in a wonderful way. He was like, this is your domain, so you tell us. I'm like, I think it should be Greta Gerwig. I think it needs to be like this. I think it has to be kind of like not avoiding some of the complicated things about Bart. You know, we're pretty honest in that first initial meeting about what our approach would be. But more than anything, we kind of wanted to reassure him too that, you know, there's a 60+ year legacy of this brand, and we would be honoring that. And, you know, it's like, it was all going to be done with love, and executed at the highest level with the best people that this industry has. You know, we have the most incredible HODs on this film. Rodrigo Prieto, our cinematographer, and Sarah Grimm. I mean, every single person who worked on this film, and of course our cast, is just the very top. So yes, in that initial meeting, I didn't know exactly what this was going to be, because that's the genius of Greta and Noah. I just knew what the intention was and what I thought the potential of it could be.
I'm really curious, was there ever a meeting with Mattel where you had to kind of fess up to what you were really going to do? And what did they say about it?
We had so many meetings. If you could just be a fly on the wall for some of the meetings we had, it was... Because of course this script was bonkers, and if you think about how like kind of weird it is what you just saw, like imagine that on the page and everyone didn't know what it was going to be to begin with. So yeah, there were a lot of meetings where we had to really get them comfortable with being very, very uncomfortable. And they were amazing about it.
And what kind of feedback did they give you after seeing it? Were they delighted? They had to be, surely. I mean, read the script and realized this was going to be really hard. And you said something like, how do you play a 70-year-old crotchless doll? Is that correct? So I am curious, how did you set about, I mean, what are you basing this on? Like, what do you think, what's going through your head when you're like, how am I figuring out Ken? And what were the conversations you had with Greta and Noah about that?
Well, even though it's true, there are no books you can read, no biographies on Ken, no documentaries. There's really nothing. We did have this brilliant script that was just so layered, so deeply thought out. It was just so like unexpectedly philosophical. It was like, and I think Greta is she have a degree in philosophy? She should. But it's almost like, I don't know, is it like Descartes who said, I think, therefore I am? But it's like she was going, okay, she took it one step further and she was like, I can, therefore I beach. But there was this layer to the humor where it was like she so like deeply understood how she could use comedy to facilitate a more serious conversation. And so she started it, there was no one ever had the thought, I wonder what Ken thinks. And if anyone did, they let it go very quickly because it seemed like a waste of time. But she just said, no, I'm going to dig really, really deep into this. And, she found such interesting and beautiful things. So that was there, that work had been done. And then it just sort of became like sort of trying to, we started a kind of, because she was in London, a kind of a text exchange really that was sort of just photos, and it ended up looking like what I imagined Ken's Instagram would look like if he had one. It was just all these kind of weird inspo. It's sort of like it's almost like Battleship, where you're kind of trying to guess like where the other person is, and I would send like a picture of like the Barbarian Brothers from Maxim, like a muscle fitness magazine from the 90s that I remembered as a kid. And she would be like, okay, but maybe more like this. And then she would send like a picture of like that guy from the Warriors, And then I'd be like, all right, well, what about this? And I'd send the Ultimate Warrior from the WWF. And she'd be like, yeah, but maybe it's a bit more like this. And then she'd send that guy from Xanadu. And it's the same guy, by the way. And I was like, okay, I'm getting a connection. There's a theme here, and it has to do with that actor. He's the Rosetta Stone. But anyway, it ended up, and then she would send a horse lamp or a bunch of spoon sculptures, and she'd be like this. And I just felt so honored that she trusted me to understand what like a wall of spoons might mean for this character.
What did it mean?
Towards the end, like months after we had begun shooting, it was, we never really talked about the monologue separate from Gloria's entire journey, really. And similarly, there was a lot of texting going back and forth, and sometimes it was like poetry, or it was an article, or it was an episode of something, or an op-ed about womanhood. And we just kind of for months went back and forth sharing, where we saw the essence of Gloria's journey, which of course is very much encapsulated in that monologue, just bubbling up in the culture, and so by the time we got around to shooting it at the end of the shoot, I felt so ripe and ready, and the truth is like I just spent 40 years being a woman in the world. Like that's mostly how I prepared for that monologue. And Greta and I, we had a lot in common in terms of like both being moms and having careers and being artists. And so we it felt like sleepover bonding on a really fundamental level. And it was just, I think that the words were just true. And when I read the words on the page, it just hit me as truth. And I felt like my job was just not to get in the way of what was true, and I think that's what resonates, not just with women, with people of all genders who feel like seen and reflected in the, like you said, Ken and all kinds of people are also damaged by the same systems, right? And Greta had said that she looked around and the guys on the crew were sort of wiping away tears, and they had their own either version of their own, or like a relationship or a witnessing of someone they loved having that experience, So I just feel like it was such a gift that Greta and Noah, but I suspect probably really Greta, put on the page. we connected to it as much as we could personally, but at the end of the day, it was just about like letting the simple truth come through.
Were you a Barbie owning girl as a kid?
No, I was not at all. I mean, we like couldn't afford Barbies growing up. My cousin had Barbies that I kind of played with at her house, but you know, I had never in my wildest dreams desired to be a part of a Barbie movie, you know? And when the script came my way, what was so compelling was Margot's involvement and Greta's involvement and saying, okay, here are two incredibly talented, intelligent, deep artistic women. Why are they doing this and what are they going to do with it? And once you read that script, it was just unbelievable. I mean, I felt giddy with excitement. Just at
and I read it and I was like, I don't have to change a line. Usually I feel compelled to and want to, you know, put my own like spin on the dialogue and stuff, and I was like, wow, this is what I would write, only it's 10,000 times better, and I don't have to, I'll just say exactly what this is. Okay. And so that was amazing. And then my biggest thing became like, what are the clothes? Because we know the hair of these Barbies. That's easy, but they're always naked. The clothes have been flushed in the toilet and burned and buried with the dog. And what will I wear? And that was the funnest part of creating the character, as it were, working with the amazing costume designer and working on the hair and the makeup was like such a fun journey. So that.
You know what I love is that the dog that poops was a real thing. And it was discontinued because the magnets didn't work on the poop. And it was like a danger to children. But I absolutely love that that's a real thing.
Yeah, there was a lot of freaky, weird stuff and real stuff, and they told the truth. All they did was have to tell the truth, and I just was so I it's so amazing to be part of something like this with it's crazy, but like, I specifically loved Weird Barbie because I feel like girls that age who are doing that to their dolls are just trying to be themselves and express what they feel inside. And how they don't feel like this, they feel like and I wanted to speak to them.